Welcome back to the program. We have our next guests in the studio. To my immediate left is Mr. Corland Forrester. He's the Comptroller of Inland Revenue, and to his left, Mrs. Karine Noreen Alexander. Of course, we all know Karine. She works at the Government Information Service. So good morning. Welcome to you both.
Thank you. Good morning.
Okay, great. It's good to have you. So I'll start with Mr. Forrester. You are now the Comptroller of Inland Revenue. How long have you been there, sir, and what are some of your roles and responsibilities?
Well, I've been controller since August of this year, and overall, I'm responsible for the administration of revenues for of all the taxes that Inland Revenue is responsible for. Managing the personnel, looking at the various policies as it relates to tax collection and the compliance of taxpayers. So that's a sort of broad role, type of role that I play.
All right, so just a quick correction. August of last year, we're in the new year. It keeps happening. What are some of the major things that you thought needed tackling immediately as you got into office?
Well, we were right in the middle of starting form of the department. We've segregated our taxpayers, so we segmented them into two areas, large and medium taxpayers and the small and micro. And so we had to reorganize our division so that we can better serve them. And that involved both the physical, where rather than having when taxpayers come to our office, meet with us to solve a problem, rather than trying to get people from different, the offices are all over the place. We're now in one location based on the type of taxpayer that we're serving. So that's the physical part.
Right.
We also had to reorganize our staff and train them so that they would be able to meet the demands of the taxpayers and to increase the customer service to them by assisting them.
Right. So are you seeing a greater level of efficiency now that you've actually, not just the training, but separated the taxpayers into these two groups, as you said?
Yes, in fact, we did several things. We had meetings with these taxpayers, and we got feedback from them on how we could better serve them. So we're in the process of implementing those recommendations. And it's rather early, but I do think that we're seeing some positive returns.
Would you say that, I haven't forgotten you, would you say that separating the taxpayers into large and medium as well as small and micro are one of the major changes that has been made since you came into office?
Yes. In fact, that was one of the benchmarks of the homegrown program. So we worked hard to ensure that we've met those goals, and I'm happy to say that we have.
Okay.
And things are working well right now.
Okay, so Karine, I just want to build on the same point that Mr. Forrester made in large and medium, small and micro taxpayers. From the time you got in there and then when he came there, have you seen a greater level of efficiency? Are things running much more smooth at the Inland Revenue Department?
Yes, Les. Well, as everything, there'll be hidden problems, but I think we're getting there. We've met with the taxpayers, especially the large and medium ones, and they've given us positive feedback, as Comptroller has said, and we're working on these recommendations to ensure that we provide better service so that they are comfortable. Right now, we've been working on signs so they'll be able to maneuver their way around the office, and that has been science has been installed so far, and we're getting positive responses.
Right.
Yes.
But in the beginning, were you, as with anything, when there's change, there is resistance in some areas. Was there that problem here, or it was basically people being receptive to the change that was
Well,
being
many
made?
of them like the approach that we took in order to better serve them, and as Comptroller said, at one area where they can be served. So the auditors are there, the collections officers are there in that area, and then the taxpayer service also. So they have their own area where they can come to and get their service, the service that they need.
Great.
Yeah.
Mr. Forrester, what are some of the organization's goals relating to compliance and or other areas 2016?
Okay. Well, overall, we want to provide better services to our taxpayers. So, but one of the main purpose or the mission of Inland Revenue Division is to collect taxes. So by increasing compliance, we think that will have a direct correlation or direct effect, so that will increase additional taxes that would serve in terms of developing the infrastructure, providing healthcare, education, and so forth. So so one of the primary goals is to increase the compliance, so that not only we ensure that the people that are identified and are within our tax system are paying, but those that should be paying will be asked to come forth and pay their fair share of taxes. We want to increase compliance as it relates to licenses. In fact, we started doing some public relations strategies as it related to that, letting taxpayers know that, in fact, this month a lot of the professional and other licenses are due. And so we were reminding them. We were also reaching out to individual sectors. So like we would send letters out to like the legal sector, the different businesses, to the individual taxpayers, appraising them of that maybe we have not received their returns, or they have payments outstanding and so forth. So these are some of the strategies. We've also are looking to continue improving on information technology to better serve our taxpayers, and also to assist with that. One of the things that I'm proud to announce is that, working together with the police, we have now a vehicle link system that has been implemented. So right now everything is done electronically. We have all the data in the system. So when you go to license to inspect your vehicle, they would be validating some of that information by looking at the actual cars, making sure that the information that we have is correct. Because the next step will be that we would like to go online, so that you can pay for your vehicle licensing and maybe on for your driver's license online. But before we can go to that added step, we needed to validate all the information that we've entered into that system, which came from the old cards, is current. And so these are some of the tax strategies that we have online.
Okay, that sounds really good, because of course that would mean greater efficiency, shorter lines, maybe no lines eventually. That's a very ambitious project. How do you have a time frame in mind for that to be implemented? Because of course, as you said, you have to have all the information, but what sort of time frame are you looking at to see this become a reality?
Well, we're looking towards the first half of the year to continue validating our data, to make sure that all the data that is in our system is correct. Once we feel assured that, let's say, 95%, there is always going to be some error rate that is correct, then we can move forward to going online.
Okay, great. Mrs. Alexander, back to you. What have Mr. Forrester has mentioned a lot, but what are some of the other things being done just to ensure that taxpayers are better served and they're up to date, kept informed with what they need to be informed of?
Okay. Well, we have training going on as we speak. We're developing some standards that our staff can always refer to, so that taxpayers are treated fairly and equally across the board. So we're working on that. So in the near future, you will definitely see some some better, improved service. Staff are being motivated to do what they have to do, and we're working on that process right now. As I said, it's a work in progress, but we're getting there.
So, go
I'd
right
like
ahead.
to augment what Karina has said. What basically we're doing, we're setting standards for ourselves that says, okay, for instance, if we get a letter from a taxpayer, that letter has to be responded to within X number of days.
Okay.
So, but we are allowing our staff to develop or come up with those standards. So it would be standards that they would set, which we think once you're part of developing that type of strategy, it would be, that now you will be held accountable and, to meet those goals. And I think it's just a better way to have them involved in the decision-making process.
Okay, great. I want to go back to because I like the idea of the vehicle licensing system and all that. How much time, I know you mentioned about at least by the first half of the year, but is it something that has already been started to ensure that you achieve that goal? And I think what I'm trying to get at is how is this being done to ensure that you have all the information that you need?
Okay. This is the process. In the past, if you remember, you went to pay your vehicle license and registration. You went to the police and they found the card, and they would then prepare that the information for you to pay based on what's on that card.
Right.
Well, over the past few months, with the assistance of the police and some Imani trainees that are here at Inland Revenue, we had to enter all those cards into this system.
Okay.
So now everything is in there. The policemen at the various inspection points, like Dusty Highway, they would have computers, they would have a laptop. So when you come to register, to inspect your vehicle, they would look at your vehicle, capture that information, in terms of the type of vehicle, the color, the
number, what have you.
like that, and validate it against what's already in our system. So that's the process, the data integrity process that we're going through. So because there may be errors from the cards,
Right.
that has never been looked at. Because once the card was done, no one was actually going back to the vehicle to looking at that. But through our process, we found that there was some type of deviation in terms of the accuracy, and hence we're going through that process of validating it during that inspection process. So because most inspections are done between January and June, hence the reason why we use that as a cutoff, to say by then we would feel assured that we would have our handle around the accuracy of the data.
Great. Go ahead.
And then we can think about going online, because if you have to pay for your vehicle registration online, there are several factors, including the size of the engine. Like you would pay less if you have a vehicle that's 2,000 cc's versus 3,500, and so we want to make sure that when you go online, that information is accurate, and so you would be paying the correct amount.
Thank you so much. So what are some of the dates taxpayers should be aware of to ensure that they are compliant and don't attract penalties and interests on their accounts?
All right, so January 20th, VAT, that's the value added tax, and excise tax return due and payable. On the 29th, income tax returns due for businesses with fiscal year ending at 31st of October 2015. 31st, corporation tax and the personal income tax installments are due. Well, I think that day is a Sunday. So of course, when you can come at the cash office and pay on Monday.
Monday? Okay.
Yes, the 1st of February. We have an online service, so if you're paying online, well, you can go right ahead by using our online address at eservices.gov.gd. For February the 7th, pay as you earn, and withholding tax are due. As you know, that's Independence Day. so the tax will on Tuesday, 9th February, and as I said, online, you can just go ahead and pay.
Course.
Using the cash office, then it's the next working day. The 15th is the deadline for payments on motor vehicle licenses, and that's numbers 1 to 250 and 1 to 2500.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So this information that you have here, it's a lot of. Do you have these like stuck up in different strategic places so that people can see, or it's just when they come into the
Well, at the DROs, we have some stick up,
Okay.
as well as we have our website, www.ird.gd. The tax calendar is there, so you can also refer to that.
Okay, great.
Time
So once they
comes.
go on, they'll see that.
Yes.
Okay, good.
We've also want to let the public know that in order to cut down on the long lines, we've added about 4 new caches. We've worked with the general office.
Yes.
So there are 2 additional caches that would be downstairs at the Treasury, and they would be able to collect on our behalf. We've also have 2 at the government printery, and they would also be able to collect it on our behalf. So that way, everyone can sort of disperse wherever they think it's most
Right.
convenient, and the lines would
Save
be
some
shorter.
time,
Yes,
definitely.
and increase that customer service.
Great. Based on that is being done at the Inland Revenue Department now, Mr. Forrester, and based, of course, on your experience, where would you say Grenada is in terms of other regional countries in the steps that we're making, the efforts that we're making to be up to date with technology in all these things, and just to be more efficient and serve people better? Where would you rate Grenada, if that's a fair question?
Well, it's hard to rank us right now. One, because being relatively new to the position, although I interact with my colleagues in the other islands, and we share information, but I don't think I have that sort of statistical information. But I know overall we are improving in terms of the collection of revenues. In fact, this past year, inland revenue increased. We exceeded our by 8% from in terms of the projections, and that bodes well for us. I'm hoping that we would continue on that trend. However, to answer your question specifically, I would be able to do that maybe in a few months, because Grenada is part of a survey of other countries, including the other Caribbean islands, where we provide information that would be in the central days, and that information put once a year, and we can then look at that information, see how we stack up, and what are the things that other islands are doing or other countries are doing that we can do that would change the metrics of that information. So maybe a year from now, I can tell you I can answer that directly.
Great. In terms of the increase that you've just spoken of, do you have like a dollar value?
Well, yes, our target was about 245 million, and we collected about 264 million.
And we're talking about for 2015?
For 2015,
Okay,
yes.
great. Well, that was good. Thank you so much. Anything else you'd like to add before we conclude?
No, it's just that I'm continuing to ask for the support of the taxpayers, because what I'm doing it's just about inland revenue, it's about for Grenada. So if we all contribute by paying our taxes, paying our license, that would help us so that we can get the type of services that are needed, and we can enhance those that we don't enhance those that we have, as well as provide additional ones maybe that we don't. So I'm just appealing to the public out there that, you know, how small is like the in the Bible, the widow with two mites. If everyone contributes something small, it would help in the long way. Like they say, one cocoa fill a basket.
Definitely. So, Karen, before I come to you, I want to ask you one final question, Mr. Forrester. Back on that 8% increase again, and the dollar value that you've just mentioned, what would you say are the major things that are responsible for that increase?
The numbers that I looked at, it was there were about 20 different tax types. And we've basically exceeded our target in all of about, from I can recall, about just 4 areas. So of 16 different tax types that Inland Revenue Division is responsible for collecting, we exceeded in 16 out of 20. And so it's not one single area.
Great, thank you so much, Mrs. Alexander.
Yes. Well, the general public can expect to get information from us as we go through this reform process, and we're going to be partnering with the different media to ensure that the information goes out timely and people will be aware of what the Inland Revenue is all about.
Thank you so much, both of you. We have been speaking with Mr. Corland Forrester, Comptroller of Inland Revenue. He's to my immediate left, and to his left, Mrs. Carrie Maureen Alexander. She's the Public Relations Official at the Inland Revenue Department. And of course, we've been talking about reform measures, and a lot was mentioned about all the strategies being adopted to better serve the people of this country. We take a quick break.